Welcome to Comic Industry Insiders Live, your weekly opportunity to hear bald men talk about the comic book industry. This week, actually, we have a plethora of incredible guests, but because this is the POS episode, we have to give the first shout out to my partner in crime, the man behind the scenes, the only guy who knows how this episode is running, Mr. Brian Garside.
And I barely know what I'm doing, so we are in trouble.
Listen, this is one of those weeks. I feel like we say this a lot, but this is gonna be one of those weeks where we both have so much going on that the fact that we get here feels like it's just an incredible accomplishment.
Like just when you think things can't get any weirder, they get like 20% weirder. It's like every week. Okay. Everything's on fire and it's underwater. Amazing.
Yes, exactly. And you wouldn't think that the fire would last underwater, but this fire totally there.
Yeah, it's like St. Elmo's fire.
If you are in the comments, I see all three of you. I see all of you and you. Oh, number 4 coming on in. Look at that. Hey, you. We would love to hear from you in the comments this week. Make sure while you're in it, you hit the like, subscribe, and alert button and all the buttons that every other content creator tells you to push. But we specifically want to hear from you about what's happening, from your viewpoint in our comics industry, because it's a crazy ass time. It's crazy, man. I don't even know. I don't even know. I will tell you that our one of our clients this week has a book coming out tomorrow. The Future Is, and I wish I had a copy here. I don't know why I don't have a copy here, but The Future Is #1 is out on the shelves tomorrow, and that has been its own lift because it's been crazy. Did I mention? I didn't say. I might actually be about to give a. You know what? I'll leave it. I might have an exclusive later on in the episode. We'll talk about that later. I know. So Brian, I know that you spent a lot of time talking about this, and I'm going to pretend like it's not a complete surprise to me. What are we doing next?
Yeah, so we are going to talk about, we've got a whole rundown. Why don't I just pull up the slide deck that I made
Look at
like
that.
Hours ago. So here's what we're going to talk about today. We are going to talk about the latest on the diamond situation, which seems to be always evolving and always in interesting new directions.
Yeah. I will say that whoever the writers are on this season of the comics industry, man, they are killing it.
It's pretty crazy out there. We're also going to talk about brand managers, what a brand manager is, why they're important, and what's going on with them. We're going to talk about the state of Diamonds data with my partner in crime and fellow data bro, Django Boren, of Comet fame and tons of other things that we're doing. We'll also talk about the state of POS and subscription systems, and we're going to bring in Django Jeff and other folks, and then we're going to finish things off like we always do with what's next for retailers. So,
excellent.
Excellent.
Yeah, thank you again for joining us for this hour. It is we're going to get super nerdy. We're going to get into the mechanics of running publishing, the mechanics of how you deal with your distributor as a publisher, and we're going to be getting deep into how some of these systems came together. I think we even have somebody here who was one of the architects of the Pullbox system that Diamond has that we're all going to have to figure out how to replace now.
Yeah.
So I know it's quite the hour. So thanks for stopping in. So where do we start, Brian?
Let's talk about the most recent Diamond news, and we're going to talk specific.
Before we do that, if you have not already, can we just take you a moment? Just go over to pranadm.com, find the monthly newsletter button, and just hit subscribe. What is this going to do for you? Well, I was just telling a retailer just a moment ago, I was talking about an issue that we were all dealing with. And one of the things that he said that he needed was sales data from the rest of the industry, because we have not been getting that on a regular basis since COVID, since the whole distributor just split up. And I said, well, I have something for you. pranadm.com, go there and subscribe to the weekly bullet. In a little bit, we're going to meet Megan, who helps me write that once a week. And inside of that, once a month, we give you sales data that we pull from the POS systems that you're going to see today. and we were able to give you some of those insights on how to order for your shop and what's doing well and what's not doing well. So check it out, pranadm.com. Okay, good. There we go. Thank you.
All right. Well, then let's get off of our shameless promotion and get into the latest on the diamond situation. So last week, I think it was like Thursday.
Yep.
There was a massive layoff. So I believe that the sale went through on the 22nd. And then I think it was like the next day that there was fairly significant cuts at Diamond.
Is that right? It feels like, I don't know, all the days are blending together to me. But yes, there were definitely significant cuts. We all knew this was going to happen. We all knew that at some point, anytime you have a merger, anytime you have an acquisition, there are folks that are in the old company that are made redundant. So there's going to be people on both sides. And that's even if you're just trying to do, what? Jeremy Shore is telling us that we had a little Deadpool Batman. Apparently that's happening. All right. Sorry about that. That's a distraction. Anytime you have a merger and acquisition, there are going to be people at the buying company that already do the job of the people that are at the company being bought. So they're going to be doing that. So it's time to let people off. And it's always, I hate it. I've hated that for my friends there. Is nobody knew how long they were going to stay. You never knew day to day if you were going back into work. Oh, it was awful. It was really awful. But as a result of that, we're finally, I think this is progress. This shows that Universal ad populum, however this breaks down, my guess is Universal. They're going to be taking over and they're making plans to do just that. So we are seeing this ongoing story continue on. But I think one of the biggest pieces and something you and I have been talking a lot about is what happens to the other tools that Diamond has been carrying on for this for the whole industry, right? Yeah. There's a number of these. At this point, do we want to bring in Troy?
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
Awesome.
Let's pop Troy in here. Oh,
hey.
Troy.
What's up, everyone?
Welcome to the screen, Troy Jeffrey Allen. Troy, now you were why don't you tell us what you're doing now, and then let's talk about why we're asking you to be on the show now.
Right now, I'm on lunch break because I now work in Mad Cave Studios. I wanted to point that out just in case anybody at Mad Cave sees me on screen right now. Yeah. So,
hey guys.
Hey guys.
I love the guys at Mad Cave. Yeah. We've had we had Mike Martz and Mark Irwin both on the podcast. So they're good guys.
I've been there since February. I got laid off by Diamond back in November. I've been at Mad Cave since February, and it's been a very positive experience. So yeah.
What work are you doing there?
I'm in marketing again. That's what I was doing at Diamond. And so, my responsibility is advertising. That includes, not just, Amazon, Google, Facebook, stuff like that, as well. Shout out to Mad Cave, as well as I still do video actually at Mad Cave. That was part of my job at Diamond. So I help put together the trailers now officially.
Oh, that's amazing. Good for you. That's a nice use of your skills. That's great. I'm so glad you're able to do that.
Yeah.
I know that we worked. Is it Anna that worked over there? That
Anna Skeller.
Yeah. We worked at Prana. We did a little bit of work with Mad Cave a couple of years ago, and what a great crew. I'm so glad you ended up there.
Yeah.
Well, so let's talk about why we brought you on the show today. You left Diamond, and before that, you were really involved in the Pullbox preview system, right?
Yeah. So I was one of two project managers on the Pullbox system. I am not an IT guy, as I pointed out. I'm a marketing person. Right. And so a lot of the difficult task of maintaining Pullbox fell on another guy named Savio, as well as Eric Beck and his team.
Sure.
But I basically saw an opportunity with Pullbox around the time that COVID happened, actually, to kind of try to push it out the door finally, because it's been something that had been in development for almost several years at that point, probably about 2 or 3 years.
Right.
And so, I basically wedged my way in there. I was like, hey, let me project manage this thing along with Eric and them. And, let's come up with a marketing plan. Let's figure out a way to get the word out about this thing. And so that was my responsibility, was the marketing side of getting Pullbox out.
Gotcha. So
Yeah.
talk about where it was when you got there. Like, was it obviously it's actually let's talk about what is Pullbox Previews really is as it stands, or at least as it stood, right before the bankruptcy happened.
Right before the bankruptcy happened. I mean, well, I don't know, to be honest.
How would you describe Pullbox Previews is what?
Okay, so Pullbox Previews is, and I actually went back through my old notes just to make sure I get this right. It was basically it was a better way to manage pre-orders and subscriptions for your local comic book store and specialty shop, right? So for years, the conversation has been like, how can we improve getting comics to people via previews, right? And Pullbox was kind of supposed to be the answer to that. The idea was that, like, if we can get people to pre-order from their phones or from their home, and directly to comic shops, because we didn't want to cut off the middleman. That was a big part of, like, the conversation, was not undercutting the comic book store. But if we can get them to pre-order their titles from our app or from our website to the comic book store, and then they can come pick up when the book was released, then that creates a new ease of access, because everything now is ease of access, right?
Right.
And so, Diamond has never been much of a technology company, but to me, that was a big step, because it was like, okay, let's meet the consumer halfway. And it was kind of a bold new step for them in a lot of ways.
Right. So you stepped in on the marketing side. Can you can you think back to maybe some of the notes that you had to give early on? Like, were there any directions that they were heading that you were able to kind of push maybe towards ease of use, or like reducing that friction that you talked about? So talk about some of those adjustments.
I mean, some of the conversations we frequently had was just, we had like a sort of like suggestion box, a virtual suggestion box. And so we were constantly getting feedback about Pullbox itself, right? And I got to be honest with you, man, people that used Pullbox liked it.
Yeah.
Like, they thoroughly enjoyed it. Like, we got so much positive feedback about it. It was a little off. It put us off a little bit. I got to be honest with you.
Wait a minute, we work for Diamond.
Right.
We're not used to people liking us.
I mean, that was kind of the inside joke. Is like, oh man, people are into this. Okay, all right, cool. And so, like, there were just some of them were just small things. Like, I can't really think of like anything off the top of my head, but like a lot of it was just we had stuff like series codes, right? Like, if Marvel had a crossover, how can we make sure that people are getting every book in that crossover series through a Pullbox? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like stuff like that. So I think the only thing I can think of right now is AVX. So Avengers versus X-Men, right? Like, if there was an Avengers versus X-Men main book, right? Like, there's a main crossover book, and then there was like Uncanny X-Men, like 462, that also was a book, and Amazing Spider-Man, like 633, that was also part of that crossover. Making sure that there's an option to just filter through all those books and be able to get filter through all the X-Men and Spider-Man books and get those particular titles. But also, once that crossover is over with, you're not getting those books anymore. You know what I mean?
Right.
So again, just making it really easy for people.
And it's just about, and that all that work is really on the data side, right? And we're going to talk.
Yes.
I'm sure we're going to talk to. We're talking to some data bros today.
Yeah.
We have some bros on our podcast or our show. Well, so talk about then. Obviously, this thing is perhaps the most beloved piece of of the services that comics or that Diamond really kind of maintained, and I think that says a whole lot for you.
Yeah,
I don't even know how to pronounce data. Is that data? I don't know. What was I saying? I'm so sorry. So obviously this thing is beloved, and we're seeing that. When you are looking at other services, they're trying to step in and fulfill that. From a marketing standpoint, what would you say are the keys that they should be focusing on for that ease of use? Because obviously you helped create something that was of the most value that we've had in our industry.
I think, things you should watch out for. I think it's important to actually listen to the audience, listen to the fan base. One thing I definitely was reminded of while I was doing Pullbox is a lot of comic book fans, because they're so habitual and like they have so much knowledge about comics in general, they really do understand the system of pre-ordering really well. Like there are guys who like, I should point this out. I've been on every side of previews, I like to joke, because I've been a retailer, like, you know what I mean? Like I've worked for Diamond and I'm a creator too. So I've also had my books pre-orderable through Diamond, like, or through previews. And so, you get to see every aspect of this. And one of the things I noticed when I was working in comic shops is that like, people knew exactly what to do. They knew to take that front sheet of the previews catalog out, jot down what they wanted, or use a consumer order form and mark off the numbers and stuff like that. And so that part of it, like, I think is something that you should kind of respect, right? And that you should at least acknowledge that, like, this audience, probably more than any other audience in any other industry, right, really understands the ins and outs and the mechanics of this. They might not understand distribution as a whole, but they do understand the pre-order process. Like, I don't even think like people who pre-order video games understand the pre-order process necessarily as well as comic book fans do. So I would definitely emphasize that. And like, I think you got to be a little OCD about it, man. You have to be. Like, you have to be a little obsessive about it. Like I mentioned, the series codes and the crossovers and stuff like that. Comic books are I've always felt, and I've always joked about this, comic book fans are kind of a special breed of comic book fan, like I just said. And so they're kind of wired differently to kind of, do the algorithm when it comes to following these things, like these titles, like these multiple Batman titles, and what connects to what and who connects to who and all that other stuff. And so you kind of have to also be willing to kind of roll with that as well. So, think about these series codes and think about the, look, admittedly, the overly complex nature of following these books, because the fans know how to do that. So
100%. Well, thank you so much for coming on and letting us know this. Is there anything, I know you and I talked about, there was a little shout out you wanted to give before we locked it?
Yeah. I mean, like, I did want to shout out Peter David. I was a Peter David mark for a long time. When I think about when people, like, these things get adapted to screen, right? And people say, oh, nobody knows who this character is, right? My argument has always been every character has a story arc that someone loves, right? And Peter David is one of those writers that did those story arcs. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like those characters, every character is important to somebody because somebody read some story that they just resonated with. And we have comic book writers like that who embody that. So I did want to shout them out real quick. So
absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on and for sharing your experience. And I cannot wait to see what you build that is going to be as lasting for Mad Cave. I think it's just coming. It has to be coming. So
thank you.
Thank you. And one of the things that you talked about, and I want to jump into next, thanks, Troy, is data? Is it data?
Data?
Which is
data?
it?
Data?
Data? Man, because I think Troy
before
said,
we do,
according to Troy, this is really important, but I hear there's something that you need to talk about.
Yeah, like breaking news. As first reported by our own Jeremy Shore,
that's
Deadpool,
right.
Batman, Deadpool is a thing coming in late 2025.
Batman, Deadpool. Will Ryan Reynolds play both of these characters? I'm really hoping so.
Team Zeb Wells and Greg Capullo, and then Grant Morrison and Dan Mora. Are you serious? Even Jeff?
Come on now.
Thoughts? Jeff, thoughts?
Oh, very, very excited. Although if I heard that Grant Morrison was going to be writing a Batman story, I'm going to be very, very excited about that. We did a podcast about it. To hear that it's a Grant Morrison Batman and Deadpool story is like, okay, that's not my Grant Morrison Batman, but also Grant Morrison can do whatever they want and they make it amazing. So that's my too many opinions.
For all those who haven't watched or listened to all the episodes of Batman in Quarantine, do yourself a favor and search that up on your favorite podcasting catcher. Batman in Quarantine is Jeff's Batman podcast about the Grant Morrison run, and it's spectacular.
Thanks,
and one of these days, we're going to do 6 episodes just on multiversity.
We are.
Yeah. All right. All right. Sorry.
All right.
Let's remove the breaking news.
All right.
But I do want to bring in my other data bro on the state of data in the industry right now. Darda. Yeah, so Django and I are one parth of the comics industry comic standard, the comic industry metadata working group. And so we've been working with around 90 other people to build a metadata standard for comics for the last couple of years now. And this was all because basically Diamond did all this stuff back in the day. So everything was always done the Diamond way, and things were fine. Things weren't great, but things worked fine. It worked. Yeah. And then we had Lunar and UCS come in, and we had to make some changes for that. And then PRH came in and showed us what data could be in a lot of ways, because they brought a lot of rigor and just extra fields that we really hadn't considered before. And so that led to us building like an entire standard, which, that's where we are now. And
it's coming together.
I think data has never been so good and so terrible at the same time as it is right now.
I agree. I think we have we kind of have higher standards and more complexity. We have more ways that things can go sideways and less oversight. And hopefully the Comet standard is going to help sort of streamline that and push things into the right place. And really, like, there's people used to complain that they had so many Diamond damages. And when I looked at how many comics we got in a week, and there was 4 comics that were damaged, like, that's better than I could do. Yeah. And I think that comic book data is kind of in that same boat, right? Like, it's super frustrating when a barcode is wrong from a publisher, but also, dang, they got a lot of barcodes right.
Yeah, you tell another industry that you're bringing in 3,500 individual SKUs in a month, and they will go, "No, you're not. Yeah, you're so adorable. There's no way you're bringing in 30." No, I am. Every month, we bring in 3,500 new SKUs,
and then I move on to the game distributors.
Right? Yeah, and of those 3,500 SKUs, 3,470 are good.
Yeah,
right, and 30 of them are American mythology.
No,
shots fired. Don't say that.
Oh no! And Jim started out American Mythology. He started out as a brand manager, so he has no excuse. It's funny. I remember when I was pitching Comic Hub, who, by the way, we did invite to be on the show.
For sure. And we also invited League of Comic Geeks, but they never got back to us.
It's okay. I remember talking to a guy who said that he went to a POS conference legitimately to talk, like, he had speed dating to talk to as many POS systems as possible. And every one of them, he described what they dealt with, and they all went, no.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All I
came home and that was a waste of time. Now I have to build my own. And so,
all I have to say when I'm at a dinner party is that every year we have more barcodes than a grocery store will ever have at one time, and people just lose their mind.
Yeah.
Sorry, Brian, I cut you off.
Absolutely. No, it's fine. I'm used to it. Whatever. I'm just going to sit over here and pout now for the next hour. But let's talk about
so we did invite showed up anyway.
There's 2 key kind of components about this whole data thing that I think are really, really important. And it ties into the layoffs as well. So one of the things that we've lost since the pandemic is a lot of institutional knowledge. There were a lot of folks that left different companies during the pandemic, and for various reasons, right? Some of them were just like attrition. Some of them were, I don't want to do this anymore. Some of them were let go, unfortunately. And one of the things that we noticed really quickly, and the reason we started Comet, was because that institutional knowledge was missing. And it kind of boils up from the publisher level, and then also would matriculate down from the Diamond level. So you screw up something 5 times, your brand manager tells you, okay, this was screwed up. Here's what we have corrected. And eventually you kind of get that and fix it. But the guardrails kind of disappeared in the last 4 years. So we lost those brand managers. And here to tell us a little bit about what a brand manager does, that's called a segue, Adam, is our own Megan Marsden. Megan.
Hello.
Hi. So one of the things that we've noticed is like a lot of this data that used to get cleaned is not, and we think it's kind of partly because of a lack of brand managers, especially from some of the new distributors that came along. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the functions the brand managers did at Diamond?
So a brand manager is essentially your publisher or your vendor representative to the distributor. So you collect the metadata, you collect the cover art, any preview pages, any imagery you want to send out. And then at Diamond, you hand keyed in everything. And when it came time for featured items and things like that, you went to battle for your publisher. Like, this is the best book. It has to be get a featured item or a gem of the month. Every store needs to have this item. But the problem is right now, since so many people are being unfortunately let go from Diamond and a couple other distributors are still building their staff, is that we don't have a lot of people to handle all those accounts. When I was at Diamond, I had at one point 104 publishers that I took care of, which some of them put in stuff every month, like Oni, and then some put out things once a year. Or you had brands that had similar things. Somebody had Scholastic, while somebody had Cartoon Book, and you had to make sure that Bone wasn't coming out in previews from both to get competing item codes.
Yeah, Megan and I work together on a daily basis. She works with me at Prana, and so I can say that you've been on both sides of that now, both as a publishing representative and as a brand manager.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? I don't know if I've ever asked you this question, but what do you think that publishers don't understand about the brand manager's job?
I think one of the things they don't understand is that, for me at least, I took my brands to heart. And if there was a problem, if your books were only received half through, I wanted to figure out where your books went. You paid to have them purchased. You're essentially holding the publisher's money ransom, the retailer's money ransom, until the books get delivered. You don't want somebody to say, I ordered 36 copies, I got 4. I have a lot in my budget for these. When are these mystery books going to come? So part of it was knowing how to communicate all the different steps of essentially how the sausage is made. With, I know you sent in this data, the data was clean, you sent in the books were clean, they disappeared. Now I have to contact the warehouse. The warehouse has to do bin checks. The warehouse has to do all their steps backwards. So I think the hardest part was explaining, like, I'm here for you. I want your books to succeed, but I am not in Plattsburgh. I am not in Diamond UK, who was a customer as well as their whole confusing for people that don't know experience of Diamond UK. So
yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt.
No, it's just a lot of them don't understand the work, especially in a preview cycle, because the way previews used to be when we were all in office was there would be a hard copy printed out and passed around like a yearbook, and you circle what's wrong, you check here, so you always want to write like, ta-ta for now, see you next summer. But in actuality, it's this price is wrong, this cover is wrong.
Gotcha.
And that kind of also was part of the data problems, is how Diamond's system was set up.
And how early before the previews catalog actually comes out was like the data coming in and getting cleaned? Like how much beforehand? So
right now, they are working on the July catalog. I sent that data in the first week of May.
Wow. Okay.
So they're working months in advance, which is a different way than Lunar does. Lunar has really quick because they don't go to press. Diamond's data comes in earlier because they make this whole mammoth catalog that they print out every month for a physical edition. So
one of the things I want to go back to, just so that we can make sure to underline it, because this section of our show is really about the data.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I think that surprises most people when they first start getting involved in this problem is the fact that at Diamond, anyway, the brand manager as you said, hand keyed in. So we as publishers would fill out a Word file, send that Word file to you, and then what would happen?
You have a couple of days where you're just sitting at a desk going through your emails, or if you printed them, copying, pasting. And if you misspelled something, Rick and Morty now becomes Mork and Orky, and you've now ruined the entire data file for that series. And now the retailer's going to go, I thought Rick and Morty 37 was going to be in the catalog. I'm sorry, Oni, this is the easiest way I can think of. Or if somebody else was helping you with the data, they might write Rick and the word and, you might do Rick ampersand. So
Right.
depending on who's entering the data, you could get a different title depending on the character count.
And
You
so
could
that
get
was
a
just
different
based on memory. You were just remembering how you laid out that title the last time, or how the publisher laid out that title the last time.
You could make a copy essentially of the previous month, but if
Yeah.
something is wrong and you don't notice it,
Right.
then it keeps coming in incorrectly. And also with Diamond, you couldn't do accents or non-English characters on names.
Mhm.
So if the publisher sends in Renee and there's an accent, it becomes REN space exclamation point question mark, and you can't read what you're looking at on the website. And that creator is now unfortunately not credited properly. And the data is, I like to say, borked.
I remember there was something like 18 versions of Francis Manipul in the system at one point.
Yeah.
So yeah, I totally see how that would happen with that system. And can you just, I don't want to belabor this too much, but when you were there, you were dealing with a data system. Can you tell me what that data system looked like? Were you dealing with a web browser?
It was a house-made system that connected everything. Hopefully my NDA is up. It's been a couple of years. But
were you entering into a DOS prompt?
Basically, yes. Everything was
like at the bank.
Homemade system of what it could be. And what a big problem for the data was, if you're working in coordinates with Diamond Books, you're getting data 6 to 9 months out for the next season. And you have to enter that in. If you mess up that trade, you've now messed up possibly the book market for it as well.
Right.
So not only are you messing up for the publisher, for their trade to be sold at your local comic shop, you've messed up Amazon, you've messed up Barnes and Noble, Books A Million, all those things, because somebody could get lazy and just copy paste and not realize that they've entered the wrong title. Could be a problem.
Yeah, for sure.
100%.
Yeah, this is another name that I think there's about 11,600 different ways that we spell it.
There's a couple people, even with short little names, but they messed up the name. So you go, especially if the characters are being used. Well, the artist name is being used for the variant covers. You could look up Liana Congus, but somebody forgot the S, and now it's the Leanna Kanga cover, and you're not going to find it in your Pullbox system.
Yeah,
right.
Going back to Troy, you're not going to find it in Pullbox.
Well, thank you, Megan. I appreciate that. I think that, I will tell you, as a publisher, having a good brand manager was everything. I'm sorry, Joe. I'm not answering. And I will tell you, having to go through several different brand managers, in many ways, anything success that we've had in publishing has been because we have a good one who's ready to advocate like you were. So I really appreciate that. And I appreciate all the work you do for publishers now, especially since you work with me to do it. So,
and it's so nice to have people on the inside who know how the sausage is made out here. And hopefully, disseminating that information out as well. So awesome. Thank you so much, Megan.
No problem. Thank you. Have fun.
Thanks.
That's been interesting. Well, I don't know if it'll be fun.
Has this been fun? I don't know.
So let's chat a little bit about the POS and subscriptions systems. But before we do, I just want to talk real quick about kind of what brought up this whole episode today,
Sure.
because last week when all of the Diamond stuff happened, there was also an email went out to ComicSuite users that Rich posted on Bleeding Cool, and basically said that as we transition to new ownership, everything's up in the air. They said a bunch of other stuff, but really it's like we're continuing. They've been extended at no cost through July 31st, 2025, which immediately made everyone say, does that mean the servers all go down on July 31st, 2025? Which made me say, please no. I don't have that kind of time. I can't bring on. So yeah, like even if the existing guys all took a third, we would still be completely overwhelmed. And I don't care what anybody says. If they say, oh no, it'd be easy for us to add. No, it won't be. You've got to support 200 people. Ain't going to be easy. If you think it is, you're just being silly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm hoping that things go on and that, this isn't a panic, but at the same time, we have to be realistic and say people have to prepare for it to be, the end possibly.
Yeah, could be the end. And, I will say you've had some time. It's now is the time. Well, now was not the time. A month ago was the time. 6 months ago was the time, but now is not better time than tomorrow. Like you should be looking at what are your available systems? How is your shop going to survive if July is the 31st? If August 1st comes around and there is no more ComicSuite, what are you going to do? How are you going to handle that? Are you essentially going to have to be like Django and start your own system? Because you might want to start that already.
Don't be like Django. God, please don't be like Django. I want to say this is like our 14th episode. Is that right?
Is it really? Good God. Okay.
Yeah, 14 or 15, which means that we've been doing this for 14 or 15 weeks.
Correct.
Which means we have been saying the exact same thing for 14 or 15 weeks.
Correct. Yes.
So you've had 14 or 15 weeks to get this message. And also, we've been saying this outside of this group for a lot longer than that. So yeah, the best time to do it was 14 or 15 weeks ago. The second best time to do it is right now. You need to start looking into this. 100%. So that brings us to our friends Django and Jeff.
Hey.
At Comic Shop Assistant. We did reach out to both Comic Hub and League of Comic Geeks because we wanted to talk to the 4 kind of primary players in this. And ComicSuite is also one of them, but obviously they're
unknown.
Yeah, exactly. So we wanted to really quickly kind of go through who are the players in the POS space. What do comic retailers actually need from a POS subscription tool? Pros and cons of the existing platforms, and what can fill the void. So I started with one of these. So back in my IT days, we did a thing called the what just happened? My page.
I think that was me. Sorry.
We did a thing called the it's based off the Gartner quadrant. So basically Gartner has an X and a Y axes to determine kind of software, and those X and Y axes, the X one represents, oh man, I'm so out of practice on this stuff.
This is really great. You're killing this, Brian. Later when you feel
Thanks
like
so much.
you worry that maybe people think you weren't prepared. I'm saying they won't think that, buddy. They will think you're all prepared.
So the X-axis being the ability to execute is like the stability, the adoption, the usability, and customer support. So the further along you are on the bottom, the more stable, the more customer support, even the more actual users you have. The Y-axis, which is the up and down, is the completeness of vision. So innovation, adaptability, long-term potential, and key insights. You don't want to be in the bottom left corner. You want people a little bit higher in the upper right corner. But also being too high in the upper right hand corner can sometimes mean that you're overbuilding your system or building more than people need. So
this is a chart about who has the best names. Is that right?
Basically, yeah.
Cool.
Honestly, the only reason that my stuff is up so high is that outside of ComicSuite, we are like the number 2 in terms of install base.
Right.
Just wait till we get our logo redesign.
I know you guys are gonna, you guys are crushing it, and
You're gonna kill it.
so I let another all right, ChatGPT plotted all this for me. I didn't do anything. I fed it all of our stuff and let it plot it because I wanted it to be unbiased and I didn't want it to like grab my stuff. So that's kind of what we see here, and there's reasons for all this. I also built a matrix of features that all of us have, and you can see over here,
Nice.
Pullbox and ComicSuite are missing a lot of kind of the automation features. Comic Hub has a ton of stuff, but they also have it based on there's like a lot of caveats around it. Also, they're kind of opaque and it's hard to figure out exactly what they do have, what they don't have. I'll be honest with you.
Maybe you could get in there and use it.
If you don't mind, I have, I worked with Comic Hub for quite a while.
For sure.
And I'm still, tacitly connected to them. I have spent much time with the U3 and all of it I have loved. So if you don't mind, I have a little shtick when people ask me about which POS system they should try that I use. And I haven't actually rehearsed this, so I am not prepared. So you should feel free to mock me on that. Okay. Let's start with Comic Hub, probably the oldest of the software. It is the oldest of the software as a service groups. It is a wonderful solution if you are looking for something fully integrated, meaning it's going to handle your POS system. It's going to go directly to your consumers. It's going to give them an app that they're comfortable with. It is going to decide a whole lot of things for you. It is not great if you have very specific ideas about how to run your business because it is set up in a particular way. And as a result of that, every time they want to change something inside of the system, they have to change it for everyone. And getting everyone to listen, you want 20 opinions? Ask 10 retailers because there's no way to get everybody on board of the same system. So it is a struggle. It is, I would say it's a pretty decent off the rack. It still works. It's a whole lot better if you want to go directly to having online sales. It's a great system. Managed Comics, I think, comes in just behind that as far as age. Managed Comics, its killer app is that it is, as Brian likes to say, not a POS system, although I think he's changing that. It is a
no, never.
No. It's still maybe not a POS system. It sits on top of systems like Shopify, right? And I know he's working on it sitting on top of other systems. But what it does is it takes away all of the need to manage reports and manage sales tax and all of those things that the Comic Hub struggles to do for an entire globe. It delegates all of that out and actually does just focuses in on what comic shops need, which is subscriptions. It's interaction with customers. How do the customers make sure that they handle their own subscriptions? It's creating a web store to sell your stuff. It's all of that. Boys, I know you're going to want to correct me, but let me get through the end. Okay, great. It is the market leader at the moment for software as a service behind ComicSuite. But ComicSuite is basically free, so that's an understandable how those two things are going to work out. Then behind that, we have Comic Shop Assistant. The two boys at the bottom of your screen are involved in that. Look at
Men.
I'll take it.
These guys run a comic shop. They do this for a living. That's all they ever did up until the point they started their own POS system. Their killer app is that it's all web-based, right? So you don't have to have it on your system. You don't have to maintain your own. I suppose you do have to maintain your own data, but like everything is about an access to any browser. So as a result of that, like they are able to make those changes and tweaks, but also make them privately for you. So you are accessing through an individual system. You're able to really refine down what it is that you want. And because they have a really small user base, they're also very attentive to the feedback that they get now. They can be in a way that, Brian even is going to struggle with. And Stu, forget it, is just going to throw it out. Great question on the data. I believe that the Comic Hub is on Azure, and I'm going to post this up. I don't know which one you're on there, Brian, as far as web data, but I'll let you guys answer that question later. Anyway, so all of those, it does Comic Shop Assistant is run by a comic shop, and really is focusing on what the day-to-day needs are. I've heard nothing but glowing reports from people that are using it. Finally, League of Geeks?
Comic Geeks.
Yeah.
League of Comic Geeks. League of Comic Geeks is a really wonderful, I think it's basically a free system that you can use.
I think it might be $20 a month. Yeah.
It might be $20 a month.
It's basically free.
Really, really cheap, low cost, is just about subscriptions. And what they have done really, really well is create community, right? So you are dipping into a whole community of subscribers and comics fans who are talking about this stuff that are not just isolated into your shop. It basically, if you want to have that piece that it fits as part of the whole, and you want to be involved in that community, I think it's a really great choice. If you're really looking for something that you can have more proprietary control over, I would say one of the two that you see on your screen are probably a little better for you. So lots of options. Please get off of ComicSuite now before it's too late, and then go back if they fix it. How about that?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
All right. How'd I do?
Well, I thought it was great, Adam.
I just want to push one thing. These guys don't have a tiny little user base anymore.
We don't.
Closing in on 100 users. Like,
yeah.
Shit.
We're getting up there.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, I won't say it's tiny, but I would say it's small enough still.
We're
that you
smallest.
I mean, it still works. Like, guys, come on. Like, there was
still answer my phone.
There's some shrinkage, but it was cold, and they're in Washington. It's
fine.
I wouldn't call it small.
Yeah, we maintain the focus being again, customer service is incredibly important to us, and being able to help people. I don't think Django and I ever were picturing doing this sort of thing. So when we started doing it, we were like, okay, cool. Well, if people are going to be using it, we got to make sure that we're not just people up there that disappear. We've had that experience with some folks.
Django's described it too, that we came at the problem from totally opposite sides. Like, they came store out and we came customer in. And we're both kind of meeting like right here, right now. And the big difference for me is like, I don't ever want to build a POS system. There's so many tax. I've done that before. I built an invoicing system years ago. And the things I learned about taxes just meant that I never want to build.
I told you he was smarter than us, Jeff.
I'll never do it. No, you got to learn that lesson yourself. I'm not going
to. For the next one, for the 2.0.
Yeah, exactly.
Streamline it.
Where does I did want to go back to this question. Where does the data live on your systems?
For ours right now, we're on Liquid Web servers. And we're working right now to get it into probably AWS.
Gotcha.
Just the MySQL needs for comic books are brutal, and we need something that we can just like flip a switch to throw more RAM on it really easily. And Brian's laughing because of how hard AWS is to play with.
Well, I'm in AWS right now, and we're actually moving to bare metal servers for a number of reasons. But the biggest one is the complexity of AWS, and it's overkill for what we need. And
dang it, I'm worried he's smarter than us.
No, I just have smarter people that work for me that have shown me how our new system's going to work, and it's so much better. You guys can just use my bare metal when we get it.
I have a very good friend, very close friend, who is, I don't really entirely understand what he does. And every time I try and understand what he does, he tells me, and I say, well, let me get this straight. Your job is to tell people how to use AWS.
Correct.
Yes. So you don't actually use it. No.
Yeah.
You're really well paid. You're doing okay. Oh yeah.
There's a lot of money to be made in telling people how to use AWS. Yeah.
That's awesome.
100%.
Yeah, I think for me, the thing I tell everybody is, you should definitely be looking at something new, and you should definitely be trying to interview all of the potential point of sale systems that you could do, because one of us is going to be a better fit than the other ones. And you can probably tell after you investigate a little bit.
Yeah. We do a weekly webinar. I think, are you guys doing weekly webinars yet? Or are you still just doing?
We
We're
call
doing
it the
show and
perfectly
tells.
acceptable podcast.
Yeah.
It's we do a week show and tells about once or twice a week.
And are they like group show and tells, or is
Yeah.
it one-on-one? Yeah, cool. So yeah, we do, webinars or show and tells. I know Comic Hub also does the same thing. So just look into all of us. I'm pretty sure, like, I know we have it on our homepage. Everybody has it easily findable. So take a look at those things. This is Comic Shop Assistant. Although I grabbed this off your website. I don't know if this is accurate currently.
Ish. Close enough.
This is a shot of Managed Comics from this morning. You'll see they're all relatively similar. They do relatively the same things. They just do them in slightly different ways. I don't understand how Django and Jeff's system works, and they don't understand how mine works, and neither one of us understands Comic Hub. So it's all great.
One of the things I do want to stress, not even and talking to you out there, not these guys, is I hear a lot. I'm a man of a certain age, on the wrong side of 50. And I remember a time when software was something you would buy and you would own it, right? And that software you would it was yours. And so you didn't have to pay a subscription fee. And so every time I have to pay a monthly fee to use Excel, I'm like, fuck this. I used to own Excel, right? Why is it important?
Okay,
now?
Granddad.
Yeah, I know. Right, exactly. But why is it important to have software as a service specifically for your POS system? Sure, you may have an old version of Excel that works just fine. Why is it important? Well, because someday the machine that you're on is no longer going to work, which means that your Mobi system is no longer going to work, right? It means that there's going to be a new distributor, which means that any system that you had from Diamond is no longer going to work, because nobody is there to make sure to update it. Any system that you have that is not being updated on a regular basis, is not being worked on a regular basis, is going to fail you and is going to fail your business. That's why you have to pay monthly to keep these guys working. Because if you're not paying monthly, they're not developing. Okay, that's the end of my rant.
That's it. That was it. Yeah.
Do it again.
Do it again, Adam.
The other part about that is that if you're not paying for it, then you are the product, right? So yes, this is the ComicSuite page from right now. What is the most prominent thing you see on this?
Green.
Advertisements. Look at all those advertisements, right? That's because they were selling something to you. And I just don't understand why Diamond's website has these ads that are making them $10 a month. Like, what it's a
baffling
brand bad idea, right? Like, it cheapens your brand. And they've done it for years. So yeah, if you are not paying for something, you are the product. It's true with Facebook. It's true with Gmail. It's true with everything. They're going to make their money somehow.
Awesome.
Your information is the product. 100%. Yeah.
100%, Murdoch. Awesome. All right, Brian, we've got 7 more minutes. What do we have to power through here, man? Because
really, like, we're almost done. Like, we did real good. So I was just going to say, like, we could take questions from the audience about the systems, about POSs, about data. We do have a big takeaways thing that we're going to talk about at the end. What is you guys go ahead.
Django, take it away, bud.
We don't require any specific payment processor. So you can use whoever you're using now. You just tell the transaction that you took the money, and it believes you, kind of like you're taking cash. So nothing required. At some point, we'll probably integrate it with Stripe so that you don't have to even push the buttons on your terminal. And so you can, auto bill your subscribers before they're delinquent and things like that. But for now, it's completely up to you who you use.
And we tie in directly to Shopify and Lightspeed. They have their own payment processors, but I know you can also just take everything as cash or as credit card outside of those systems, and then use whatever payment processor. Just you'll have to enter the transactions probably the same way that you do with you guys. I imagine that you're using buttons on a processor machine.
Telling the comic book industry that they have to use a specific payment processor is not really super easy.
Although I have to say that sometimes it drives me insane when somebody tells me that they want to save 1%, which is going to save them $36 a month.
Right.
And I'm just
and
okay.
cost you 80 hours of development and constant upkeep.
Yeah.
Or you could just push one button and it will actually make sure that those numbers are right every time.
Yeah.
And that, Jimmy Fat Fingers doesn't hit in $22.99 when he meant $44.99.
These hands.
And you lose $20 a month. So yeah.
That's
a great question.
Not really a question about POS systems, but I did want to come back to this one. Does anyone know what the Universal Distribution Comics monthly order minimum is or will be when the Diamond acquisition goes through? We know that Universal Distribution is, they're currently a Canadian distribution channel, right? You can order them if you're a Canadian store. They've been trying to move into the US. Obviously, they are part of this purchase. It is not officially recognized that they are the ones that are going to be distributing comics, but for those of us behind the scenes, it's been pretty obvious for a little while. And I know the names of the people, many of the people that they're keeping behind. And while there may be people that would have been on my list that didn't make the cut, I cannot think all the names I know that they are keeping would have, right? Yep. They are keeping some really strong people. So I have every faith that this is not only going to be a viable concern, but that they know how there's going to be plenty of institutional knowledge, as Brian was talking about earlier, to keep this going.
Really good, smart people are coming in.
Big shout out for Managed Comics. Thank you, Frag Monkey. Would you? We've got about 4 minutes here. But can either one of you let's do 2 minutes on what a validator would do?
Oh my God!
Who's one? Django, go.
All Django. Right. So the idea behind the Comet Validator is that publishers and distributors would be able to feed their Comet files, all their data, into a machine that would look at it and say, hey, this barcode doesn't make sense with this series code or this issue sequence number. You're indicating in the barcode that this is cover A, but you're indicating in the title that this is cover F. And
also,
because
you used this UPC code previously for the further adventures of Sammy Little, and now you're calling it Jimbo Baggins' Great Journey.
Exactly what Brian just said. Great examples of hot commodities, Brian.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So basically just a way for people to input the data, have it vetted, and have it spit out a file that they can either fix or move on to the next step in the chain.
And ideally, that system gets smarter over time as it gets more data and sees more of the errors that we can then teach it. Additionally, as you're learning that this is the stuff that is wrong, because it would validate it and say, fix these things, and then we'll give you a clean thing. You actually become smarter yourself. And so that institutional knowledge gets baked into the validator and teaches more people how to fish.
Are you saying the robots are teaching us, Brian? Is that what you're saying?
Dude, I've learned more from ChatGPT in the last 2 years than I've learned from a human being in the last 20.
The robots were inside us all along.
Don't know it was right, but I've learned more.
Don't know it's right.
Probably all hallucinate.
Okay.
Katie, it can absolutely fix the Brian Michael Bendis problem.
You know what I think the most interesting thing about a validator, and I will tell you that when I left Comic Hub, this was the one thing I wanted to work on, was I didn't realize that you guys were going to end up showing up and doing it right, was a validator, right? And I wanted to build essentially the Bowker for comics, right? Where Bowker is the company that does this data validation for the book industry and then issues ISBN numbers. So what I find interesting about this is that if this is done right, that data then feeds out to all of these systems. It feeds out to the distributors. It feeds out to everybody that's going to use this data, which means it's no longer being hand entered by somebody like Megan, as good as she is. Or let me tell you, I've had some real bad brand managers, and none of those people are going to do it. So let's get into.
We saw Brian Michael Bendis with Isnies.
I would just say, Katie, I don't know if anything can quite fix the Brian Michael Bendis problem, because it's really a problem with like splash pages being used with that many text balloons. And I love it. But the reason you can't fix it is everybody has a different.
No. We're not talking about decompressed storytelling. time.
Oh,
Django, I've got a hard out, buddy. Let's get into some. I want to really quickly Pullbox replacement. I would say the easiest one is going to be League of Extraordinary Geeks. But I will say that this crew right now, these two groups are already doing that for you. Central positive coming in.
I think that will eventually be a goal. That's not our central goal right now. Our goal right now is to fix the data. But yeah, for sure at some point. So with your heart out in mind, our quick big takeaways, these are the same things they are every time. I've just amended them a little bit for this particular conversation. Do your research, take your time, find out what fits you. This is urgent, but you don't want to do this multiple times.
Stop taking your time. Go do this now.
Go look into this. Track your orders, maintain a comprehensive list of pending diamond stuff because you're going to need that. Secure your subscription data. If you rely on ComicSuite or Pullbox, make sure you're backed up. This could disappear at any time. Your computer could die. You don't know. Clean up your Pullbox. Get rid of your dead subscriptions. Get rid of your laggards. Clear them out. Call them. Get them out. Clean your data. Get contact information. Django doesn't care about this, but you need an email or phone number at the very least. I require your data to be clean. Django will take all of your do not calls and put them in there. He doesn't care.
Listen, that's on you.
Streamline your inventory. So get rid of that slow moving stock. Don't bring in that crap into your new system. Start with something clean. Clean up your inventory, prepare for a transition. And then this is the one that Joe says all the time. Lean on your retailer network. Talk to other people. Find out what they're using. Ask them how it's working for them. People will tell you, people have tons of opinions on this kind of stuff, and they will tell you what works for them.
100%. Wonderful. Tell us, boys, how do we get it?
With support from publishers and distributors.
No, how do we get your system, your POS system?
Oh, our
at the end of the show.
Oh, right. This is the marketing.
Deal.
ComicShopAssistant.com.
ManageComics.com.
ManageComics.com.
There you go.
Wait, am I supposed to do it for him too?
Check out League of Comic Geeks. Check out Comic Hub. Do a search and see what folks are using.
Yeah,
and
100%.
And
awesome.
do what your heart tells you is right.
Comic Shop and go ahead and subscribe to our weekly newsletter, where I promise this week, Megan, help me remember, we're going to put in the list of contacts and how to get started on all of these. So
nice.
Wonderful. Thank you, boys. This was really, really fantastic for a show that we put together at the last minute, and Brian fed into like ChatGPT 15 minutes ago. It's amazing. I always appreciate seeing you guys, and thank you so much for filling in for me while we were out on a van going to comic shops, because it was fun.
It was a good time. Fun. Yeah. We got 2 podcasts out of it. Everything that we could possibly want.
All right. Thank you, Christina. Thank all of you. Thanks the experience. Thanks, producer Kyle.
Thank you as always, Kyle. Yeah. Woof.
Badass.
All right, gang. We'll talk to you soon.
Namaste, y'all.
Hey, y'all.